Hi everyone, Milan Navida here, Deputy Director of Planning with Permits Sonoma, giving you a recap of the August 29th Planning Agency hearing where we discussed the Cannabis Ordinance update that our division is working on over the next couple of years. The Cannabis Ordinance update is the next level or the next stage in regulating cannabis within Sonoma County. This is coming on the heels of several variations of the Cannabis Ordinance that have come out since the state of California legalized cannabis cultivation and processing. The Cannabis update is meant to achieve several different goals. And these are goals that we've been working towards ever since Permit Sonoma developed the Cannabis Ordinance. The first is to try to figure out the best way to permit the existing underground industry and move them into the regulated market, make them legal grows. The second is to create a viable industry, so create a regulatory framework where businesses can thrive. We want to provide safe access for patients that want to access cannabis, maintain public health and safety and protect the environment, certainly allow us to properly enforce anyone who is working outside of our ordinance. We recognize that cannabis can be a supplement to agricultural activities, so need to find an avenue to allow cannabis to support farming income otherwise, and definitely to address the potential nuisances that cannabis can bring into our community. So with the planning agency, the first part of the presentation was going over how the cannabis program has been working so far, how we've been doing on code enforcement and permit processing. We've definitely, I think no surprise to many, seen challenges in the way that we can regulate this market. It's a brand new industry and brand new regulations. And so we are learning as we go about the best way that we can do this. We have major successes along the way, and we've certainly had some stumbling blocks as well. There's continued concern about the speed at which these applications are processed and which applications are processed. And so that's certainly part of an effort to update the ordinance, is making sure that we can address those problems.
As you may remember from the first ordinance in 2016, there was a transition period built into our ordinance, and the Board of Supervisors expanded on that and created the penalty relief program. And what this does is it allows those operators that have been present to continue operating while going forward with their use permit in good faith. So it does require that they had a complete application by June 1st, 2018, and that they're diligently pursuing that application. They're complying with our tax regulations and a host of other issues and areas. And to date, we have 47 left in the program, but I did want to point out that originally in 2017, when folks applied to be part of this program, there were over 200. 2018, really after that June deadline, it went down to 115. And right now we're down to 47. So this year, just in synopsis for 2019, we've approved 13 of those penalty relief operators. We've approved their applications. We have taken efforts to remove people from the operation, from the penalty relief program that have not been abiding in good faith for various reasons. And so 11 have been removed with no appeal. And then we do have 4 pending appeals at this time. And then we have received a couple applications that have withdrawn. This is just a quick view of where our permits are in place right now. So we have roughly 165 applications in process. So 66 of those applications have been approved. And keep in mind that the permitting scheme includes Department of Agriculture. They have a ministerial permit program that allows up to 10,000 square feet of outdoor cultivation. And then the use permits come here to Permit Sonoma. So this is a mix of both. And then we have approximately 62 applications that are not operating, not under our penalty relief program, but have applied and are being processed. And then of course the remaining penalty relief applications that are currently being processed. And I did want to note that on the hearing schedule this summer, you've probably noticed that there hasn't been a lot of activity. And that's really because we've had a lot of success with being able to waive those public hearings for some of the industrial sites and some of the rural ones as well. If we do a tremendous amount of public outreach, and if we find that there's no neighbors or issues with the application, and we can approve that, and we can do that administratively, we'll post a notice, publish a notice, and do that due diligence to see if there was anyone who wanted to be heard. And if that's successful, then those applications are approved administratively, and then they can continue with their condition compliance. So we have been successful with many of those, not just cannabis, but even non-cannabis this summer. So we've approved 5 that way since May. And we do have a couple scheduled for next month on our tentative calendars. One has been noticed for September 5th. And then we, of course, have the 2 that are scheduled for appeal with the Board of Supervisors. That's Roberts Road and Irvine.
So with this next phase of the Cannabis Ordinance, we are going to be looking at everything we've learned along the way and trying to address the areas that we know we have some work to do on cleaning up our regulations. Whatever we do with the ordinance update is going to involve a lot of community input. We've developed an outreach plan and are refining it as we speak, and that's going to involve consistent consultation with the community, with the industry, and with other stakeholders that may need to get involved with the process. Some of the key things that we know we're going to have to pay attention to is cultivation in rural areas and how we can do that in a way that balances all of the needs and concerns. Looking at setbacks from residential areas, so making sure that the cultivation is distanced from where people are living. Looking at the list of sensitive uses to make sure that if some activity needs to have wider separation from cannabis, that we're actually including everything in the list that needs to be there. We want to make sure that we are protecting our critical habitat and resource areas. That'll be definitely an area of focus. Other areas include exploring increased maximum cultivation area when we know that cannabis cultivation is appropriate for that site. We want to help the process by moving more towards ministerial permits, which means faster permitting and easier permitting with clearer standards so that the industry can move forward when we've defined where the best places are for cannabis. Some other areas of exploration include the edible manufacturing and other manufacturing and processing aspects related to cannabis, including volatile manufacturing, exploring tourism opportunities, which the industry has been advocating for and is typical of other kinds of activity that we have in the county, like the wine and brewery industries as well, and of course to make sure that we're fully aligned with state regulations. The Cannabis Ordinance Update is part of our 2019 through 2021 work plan, and we'll be working on it for that 2-year period. We're kicking it off immediately. We're actively working on it right now to develop the scoping plan for the project, which will then get us going. The first stages are gathering data and getting out into the community to talk about those issues that we know we're going to have to fix within the ordinance. And early on, we're going to be going out with a request for proposals to bring an environmental consultant on board to help us with the environmental review. Once we have a sense of the direction we want to go in with the ordinance, we'll go ahead and draft the ordinance, have it environmentally analyzed, and put that before the Planning Commission and then the Board of Supervisors for adoption. We'd like to kick off the environmental part of this project around the summer of 2020 and look for the Commission review in early 2021, with the board review wrapping up sometime in the summer of 2021.